About a year ago, I found myself standing outside my parents' house, the same place where I grew up. The sky was overcast and honestly it matched my mood perfectly. I hadn't set foot there in 15 years, and if my mom hadn't called me in a panic, I doubt I ever would have come back. My name's Rachel. I'm 34 and I work as a creative director at an ad agency in Denver. I've got a 10-year-old son named Daniel and he's my whole world. I'll never forget that Saturday when my mom called me, her voice shaking with worry. You need to come home right now. The family's in real trouble. But the truth is, I never really felt like part of that family. As far back as I can remember, there was only one person who truly mattered to them. My younger sister, Brooke. I can still picture the day I left that house. I was 19, clutching my acceptance letter from UT Austin, when my parents called me into the living room and dropped a bombshell that changed everything. We used your entire college fund to invest in Brooke. I just stood there stunned. Invest. I managed to say barely above a whisper. My mom nodded like it was the most reasonable thing in the world. Brooke's got real talent in the arts. We enrolled her in a top academy. She needs that money to chase her dream. Brooke's dream, huh? What about mine? You can always take out student loans, Rachel. But this is a once-in-a-lifetime shot for Brooke, my mom explained as if that made it all okay. So, I left home that summer, sweating in the heat with nothing but an old suitcase, a handful of clothes, and whatever cash I'd scraped together from odd jobs in high school. Nobody came to see me off. Not a single word of concern. My parents didn't give me a cent, no secret envelope, no hidden savings, nothing to help me get started. All I got were the occasional phone calls, just enough to keep up appearances. Are you doing all right? My mom asked one Tuesday about 2 months after I'd left. For a second I wanted to believe she actually cared. But as soon as I answered, her voice went right back to being distant. That's good. I was just checking. Oh, by the way, Brooke's been so busy. She just got accepted by a famous professor. I went quiet. No words of encouragement. No questions about how I was getting by or if I had enough to eat, just more talk about Brooke. Every call was the same. It was all for show so they wouldn't have to feel guilty. When I think back to my college years, I remember how I hustled nonstop, balancing classes and work, always on the move. During the day, I was a focused student. At night, I worked as a barista at a little coffee shop, sometimes picking up extra shifts at a corner market just to make rent. There were nights I had to sleep at work because I couldn't afford my room, and days when I lived off stale bread because I had to choose between paying tuition or buying groceries. I struggled. I broke down. I cried through a lot of lonely nights. But I never turned back. Every time I felt like giving up, I remembered the look on my parents' faces when they told me my dreams didn't matter as much as Brooke's. That memory kept me going. After 4 tough years of juggling school and work, I graduated with honors and landed a steady job at a big ad firm in Denver. For the first time, I didn't have to stress about rent. I could buy groceries without counting every dollar. I didn't need to work extra night shifts just to get by. I thought maybe my parents would finally be proud of me, but honestly they didn't care about what I'd been through. The only thing that mattered to them was that I had money now. It started with little messages around the holidays. Are you coming home for Christmas? We're throwing a big party. I'm sure you'd like to chip in, right? Thanksgiving's coming up. Could you order a nice china set for me? I saw a beautiful one online, just $500. I know you're doing well at work. Your dad's birthday is soon. Don't you want to get him a new watch? You know how much he loves Rolex. Every invite came with a not-so-subtle hint for an expensive gift. Not once did they ask how I was doing. Not a single conversation about my life, just money. I wasn't shocked, but I turned down every request. I'm swamped with work. I can't make it. My schedule's packed. If you want that gift for Dad, ask Brooke. She's always been the favorite anyway. I didn't care what they thought. They were the ones who left me behind. I had no reason to play along with their games. But I'm not heartless. Even though I could never forgive them, I still sent a little money on their birthdays, $2,000 just to keep my conscience clear. Birthday money for Dad. Hope you spend it well. No warm wishes, no card. Just a cold, quick bank transfer. I never expected a thank you, and of course I never got one. 2 years after I graduated, I got married. My husband was a former coworker, funny, charming, and, at least at first, seemed like a stand-up guy. We started a small family and then Daniel came along. But marriage isn't easy. Sleepless nights, calming a crying baby, arguments over chores, and those quiet moments when there's nothing left to say. I gave it my all. I really did. But one day I found out he was cheating. I didn't cry. I didn't ask for explanations. I packed up his stuff, left it by the door and told him, "You can leave now or I'll toss everything out the window." We split up after 3 years. Still, he stayed a responsible dad. Every month he sent money to help with Daniel, and honestly that's all I needed from him. After everything I'd been through, I turned into a strong woman, not because I set out to be, but because life didn't give me any other option. I stopped believing in romance. No more dating, no more chasing after love, and I sure wasn't looking for anyone to fill a gap in my life. My world revolved around Daniel. Every morning I'd walk him to school, and every night I'd tuck him in with a bedtime story. On weekends we'd cook together, watch movies, or just sprawl out on the couch, soaking in the peace I'd worked so hard to create. 7 years of grinding at work finally paid off when I got promoted to creative director. It was a big deal, a job that came with a $300,000 salary. With that, I bought us a beautiful apartment right in downtown Denver. It was roomy, safe, and had everything we needed. For the first time, Daniel and I had a place that truly felt like home. Everything seemed to be falling into place. I had a solid career, a steady life, and most importantly, I had Daniel, the only person I really cared about. But then, about a year ago, I got a phone call that flipped my world upside down. "Come home right now. Your dad's in the hospital. The family's in serious trouble." For the first time in years, I heard real fear in my mom's voice. I clutched my phone, my mind racing. My first instinct was to ignore her. I was used to only hearing from them when they needed something. This time was no different. But then I thought, no matter what, he was still my dad. I'd spent my whole life running from them, trying to forget the hurt they caused. But what if this was it? What if I never got another chance? I realized I wasn't going back for them, I was going back for me, because I didn't want to live with the regret of not doing the right thing. The next day, after a long, exhausting drive, I pulled up to my parents' house. My mom had already told me my dad was out of the hospital. When I got there, she opened the door, her eyes puffy and red. She looked older than I remembered, maybe from all the years and the weight of her choices. Inside, my dad was sitting in his usual spot in the living room, his back a little more hunched, his hair almost completely gray now. I stepped inside with Daniel right behind me, quietly taking it all in. My mom's eyes slid past me and landed on him. That's when she finally noticed him. My dad did too. For the first time since I walked in, they saw someone besides themselves. "Oh my God," my mom gasped, covering her mouth, her voice shaky. My dad blinked like he couldn't believe what he was seeing. Daniel was the grandson they'd never bothered to ask about, never tried to meet, never cared to know. He stood there, blue eyes just like mine, wavy brown hair a little messy, his small hand clutching the hem of my shirt. "Daniel, right?" my mom finally said, her voice suddenly softer, almost like a stranger's. Daniel nodded, polite but wary. And just like that, it was as if someone flipped a switch. The same people who'd spent years using me for money suddenly turned into doting grandparents. "You've gotten so big. My goodness, he looks so smart," my mom gushed, reaching out like she wanted to touch him. My dad nodded, looking him up and down. "He's the spitting image of Rachel as a kid, just taller. You like sports, son? I could teach you golf." I just stood there watching their little act. 30 seconds ago they couldn't have cared less about me, but now, seeing Daniel, they were falling all over themselves to play the loving grandparents. After a few minutes of fussing over him, my mom finally asked me to sit down. I didn't budge. I crossed my arms and said flatly, "Can we just cut to the chase?" She bit her lip, her eyes filling with tears. "The bank's about to take the house, Rachel. We need your help." I wasn't shocked. The second she called, I'd already guessed what was really going on. I waited for the next part, and sure enough, the same old name came up. Brooke took out a huge loan for her designer clothing shop, but the business tanked and she can't pay it back. We mortgaged the house to help her, and now the bank's coming for it. I let out a laugh. Brooke, always Brooke. She messed up and my parents jumped in to save her. She got in over her head and now they wanted me to clean up the mess. I turned to my dad, who'd been quietly watching the whole time. "So now you want me to pay off her debt?" He nodded, not even a hint of embarrassment. "You've got a great job, Rachel. Just help out a little so we don't lose the house." I scoffed. "Who's we?" "Family." My parents exchanged a look but didn't say a word, because deep down they knew the truth. They'd never treated me like family. I wasn't surprised, but one thing was clear. I wasn't the same scared, helpless girl I'd been 15 years ago. I folded my arms across my chest, keeping my tone steady and cool. So, how much do you owe? My parents hesitated, clearly caught off guard by my directness. My mom swallowed hard before answering, choosing her words carefully. It's about $250,000. But if we can pay $150,000 up front, the bank might give us more time. I let out a laugh, shaking my head in disbelief. 150 grand? You really think I'm just going to hand over that kind of money to save this house? My dad let out a heavy sigh. Rachel, $150,000 isn't that much for you. I clenched my fists, doing my best to keep my anger in check. But before I could say anything else, the front door swung open and in walked Brooke. She raised an eyebrow at me, her face full of smugness. Oh, so you decided to show up and play the hero? I exhaled, trying to keep my cool. No. I just came to see how many times they'd throw me under the bus for you. Brooke scoffed, folding her arms, her voice sharp and cutting. You always have to act like the victim, don't you? I stared at her, feeling a slow, burning anger build inside me. Brooke, the pampered little sister who never had to struggle, who always acted like the world owed her something. My parents had sacrificed my future to give her everything, and here she was, not even a hint of gratitude or regret. She was waiting for me to bail her out again. But this time I wasn't going to do it. I took a deep breath, looked each of them in the eye and spoke slowly, making sure they heard every word. I need some time to think. I'll give you my answer in 3 days. My mom let out a sigh of relief, like she'd just set down a heavy load. My dad nodded, trying to look calm, but I could see the hope in his eyes. Brooke just rolled her eyes and crossed her arms, smirking. Still putting on a show, huh? We all know you'll come back and open your wallet. I didn't bother responding. There was no point. Without another word, I took Daniel's hand and walked out, leaving behind a room full of expectations and silent calculations. On the drive home, Daniel broke the silence, his voice soft and worried. Mom, are you okay? I gave him a gentle smile and squeezed his little hand. I'm all right, buddy. There's just a lot on my mind right now. He nodded, not asking any more questions, but I could tell he sensed the tension in me. When we got home, I pulled out my phone and called Tyler, an old college friend who now worked as a real estate attorney. As soon as he answered, I skipped the small talk and got straight to the point. Tyler, I need your advice. My parents are about to lose their house and of course, they expect me to swoop in and save the day. Tyler let out a short, sarcastic laugh. So after all these years, they suddenly remember you exist? I sighed, feeling the weight of it all. Exactly. And the craziest part is, they act like it's just a given that I'll help. Tyler was quiet for a moment, then asked bluntly, Rachel, are you actually thinking about helping them? I bit my lip, thinking it over before answering honestly. I don't want to help Brooke, but I can't just turn my back on my parents. No matter what, they're still my mom and dad. Tyler's voice softened a bit. I've got an idea if you want to help them but keep things fair. I narrowed my eyes, a little suspicious. Let's hear it. Tyler spoke slowly, making sure I understood. You could buy the house outright and put it in your name. Let them stay but not for free. Set up a clear agreement. If they pay back the $250,000 in full, the house goes back to them. If not, it stays yours. I leaned back, thinking it over. This plan wouldn't just give my parents a roof over their heads. It would also make them take responsibility for their choices. And best of all, it would keep Brooke from dragging me down again. After a moment, I took a deep breath and said, I like it. Let's do it. Tyler chuckled. You've always been the practical one, Rachel. I'll get the paperwork started. I hung up and stared out the window, knowing that in 3 days I'd be back at that house, but this time things would go my way. 3 days later, I returned to my childhood home, this time with Tyler by my side. I didn't come empty-handed. I brought a contract that would make everything official. When my parents opened the door, I could see the worry and hope on their faces. They probably thought I'd show up with a blank check and no conditions. They were in for a surprise. Tyler and I sat down at the table. I laid the contract in front of them and spoke clearly, making sure there was no room for misunderstanding. I'm going to buy this house and put it in my name. You can keep living here but only as tenants. If you pay back $250,000 within 5 years, the house is yours again. If not, it stays mine. And Brooke, I turned to her, my voice hard as steel, you're not getting a single cent of that money. The room went silent. My parents looked stunned, like they couldn't believe what they were hearing. My mom immediately started crying, her voice cracking. Rachel, how could you do this to your own parents? My dad stayed quiet, probably trying to figure out his next move. But Brooke, she didn't even try to hide her anger. Are you out of your mind? She yelled, her eyes blazing. You're really going to make mom and dad pay to live in their own house? What kind of daughter does that? You're so ungrateful. I stood up, picking up the contract. Fine. Forget it. My voice was cold as ice as I headed for the door. Panic hit instantly. Wait, Rachel, my dad called out, his voice sharp and desperate. I paused, glancing back at him, daring him to challenge me. My mom wiped her tears and nodded quickly. We accept your terms. I couldn't help but smirk inside. I knew they would. Tyler wrapped up the paperwork and 2 weeks later the house was legally mine. My parents slowly came to terms with it. They stopped trying to change the deal, probably realizing I wasn't going to budge. But Brooke, she just couldn't accept it. I knew she wouldn't let go easily, but I never expected her to sink as low as she did. I stepped in closer, my voice so icy it surprised even me. You can say whatever you want about me, Brooke, but if you ever drag my son into your mess again, I swear it won't stop at a slap. Brooke's fists balled up, her jaw clenched tight with anger. You'll regret this, she spat, her eyes blazing with hate. I let out a low, humorless laugh. No, Brooke. For the first time in my life, I don't regret a single thing. Tyler moved forward, sliding a document across the table toward her. Sign here to confirm you've received your eviction notice. If you refuse, expect a court summons next week. Brooke turned to our parents, desperation written all over her face. Mom, Dad, you can't just let her do this to me. But my parents just looked down, silent. For the first time, Brooke realized she was completely alone. With no one left to back her up, she snatched the pen and scribbled her signature so hard she nearly ripped the paper. She tossed the pen aside, grabbed her suitcase and stormed toward the door. Just before she left, she spun around, her eyes full of fury. You'll pay for this. I met her glare, completely unfazed. Go ahead. Try me. The door slammed behind her and just like that, Brooke was gone. It's been a year since Brooke walked out of my life and honestly, things have never been better. My parents still live in the house I bought back for $250,000. I didn't leave them out on the street or charge them rent, but I set clear boundaries. Once a month I bring Daniel over to visit. I want him to have a relationship with his grandparents, even if mine with them will never be the same. I still send them $2,000 every month to help with bills and living expenses, not because I feel some deep affection, but because they gave me life and I don't want to carry regrets later on. And Brooke? After she left, she had to rent a small apartment, no more safety net, no more special treatment. Last I heard, she's working as a sales clerk at a corner market. There's nothing wrong with that job, but it's a far cry from the life she always thought she deserved. Sometimes my parents mention her, usually with a heavy sigh. Rachel, Brooke is still young. She just made some mistakes, my mom said once while I was visiting with Daniel. I set my tea down, looked her straight in the eye and replied, cold as ever, if you bring up Brooke in front of me again, you can leave this house. Silence. They knew I meant it. They'd already lost too many privileges when I finally took control of my own life, and they understood one thing for sure. If they wanted my support, Brooke was off limits. Was I too harsh? Maybe. Some people say I should be more forgiving, that I ought to welcome Brooke back and open my heart to my family. But to me, family isn't just about blood, it's about respect and real love. My parents chose Brooke over me again and again. Now I choose Daniel. I choose myself. What about you? Did I make the right call by keeping my distance from my parents and cutting Brooke out for good, or should I have given them another shot? Let me know what you think in the comments. And if you liked my story, don't forget to like, subscribe, and turn on notifications so you won't miss what's next. Thanks for listening, and remember, sometimes, the best way to love yourself is to walk away from a toxic family.